Suns forward Jay Crowder had a pretty interesting tweet and delete moment last night when he basically straight up said that he's not going to be attending Phoenix Suns training camp, and there's already been rumors that he's unhappy in Phoenix and he'd like to be traded. And I don't think Phoenix is super broken up about that. They've got a lot of wings. But it's still pretty interesting to see a role player kind of try to force his way out of a team. And I think the Sixers should absolutely go after Jay Crowder if he is indeed available, which it seems like he is. With Phoenix in a kind of tricky financial situation, with Mikal Bridges' extension kicking in, DeAndre Ayton's max kicking in, Devin Booker's supermax looming, Chris Paul still has another year on the books, and Cam Johnson looking at an extension, it makes sense why they'd like to get rid of Jay Crowder's $9 million expiring contract, especially he's 32 years old. Cam Johnson can probably fit into that starting role at this point. I mean, he's proven it over the last 2 years. He's definitely a starting caliber player, so it makes sense why they'd like to get rid of Crowder, maybe get some value back, maybe get a longer-term piece or two for his $9 million expiring, especially since teams being sold, they're kind of in a weird financial situation overall. I'm going to shout out my guy Jason Timperley on Twitter at Jason_Timperley. He's a Sixers fan, and he does a lot of great threads about different kind of trades the Sixers can make, and he has a really good understanding of the CBA and cap stuff, which is really helpful for me because I am not very well versed, especially in the financial side of stuff with the CBA. He had a really long thread about Jay Crowder to the Sixers the other day, breaking down his skill set and what it would take to acquire Jay Crowder. Now, the thread did involve basically being a three-team trade with the Jazz surrounding Bojan Bogdanovic to the Suns, with Jay Crowder going back to the Sixers. And since Bojan was traded to the Detroit Pistons over the last 24 hours, so that kind of makes it a little bit irrelevant, that aspect of it, but the whole thread itself is still very accurate with how the Sixers can afford Jay Crowder, and there still are other ways that he could be afforded, so definitely go check out that thread, definitely go follow Jason. So, Jay Crowder. Jay's fit in Philly is pretty seamless. Now, admittedly, he's a seamless fit pretty much everywhere given his skill set, but for the Sixers especially, given what they've been looking to add this offseason, what they have added this offseason, and what they still kind of need, quick trigger three-point shooting and physicality on defense, and that's exactly what Jay Crowder provides. Since the 2018-19 season, Jay's shot 10.5 threes per 100 possessions, which would rank right near the top of the Sixers' 2022 roster, along with Danny Green, Isaiah Joe, and Georges Niang. And Danny Green's obviously gone, and Isaiah Joe and Georges Niang aren't really playoff rotation guys, so adding a real quick trigger three-point shooter would be so helpful. It's just so important to have those kind of guys next to Embiid, and they've still kind of lacked that kind of guy. I mean, Tyrese Maxey isn't a real high-volume three-point shooter. Neither is Tobias Harris. Maybe we'll see. PJ Tucker, kind of, not really. And D'Anthony Melton is a pretty high-volume three-point shooter. He also shot 10.5 threes per 100 possessions last year. So just adding a guy like Crowder would be so big for the spacing around Embiid and Harden and Maxey. His percentages aren't amazing, but you can take the lower percentage when you're still forcing defenses to close out harder on you, and you just create more rotation, more space for your best players. If you leave Jay Crowder open, he's probably going to hit the three, which is really what the Sixers need so badly. I can't stress this enough. They really need that badly. Crowder isn't a lockdown defender, but he's physical and he can switch across a few positions, which really is all the Sixers need. With Tucker, House, and Melton, they've added a lot of defensive versatility, but you can never really have enough of those switchable, versatile wing defenders, so Crowder would definitely fit in nicely with the Sixers. There are obviously downsides. Crowder's 32, he's expiring this year. It might be a little bit difficult to try to squeeze him in under the cap next year, given that Embiid's contract's going to kick in soon. Tobias will still be on the books. Harden will likely have a new contract. Maxey's probably going to get extended soon, so it could get a little tight. And again, he's not the most consistent three-point shooter in the world. It could be a 32% season from Jay Crowder, which would be tough for the Sixers. They'd really need him to shoot closer to that 35, 36%. But still, at the end of the day, I really do think it would be worth it for the Sixers. So what would the Sixers need to give up to get Jay Crowder? Jay's making about $10.1 million in the last year of his contract. So I'm going to refer again to my guy Jason Timperley from Twitter to kind of explain how the Sixers can get to that number and what route they can take to get Jay Crowder here. So as this tweet reads, in order to take him back in a trade, the Sixers would need to send out a minimum of a little bit over $8 million. And they've got Korkmaz making 5.0, Thibault at 4.4, Niang 3.5, and Jaden Springer at 2.1. Jason also pointed out that the Sixers can extend and trade Crowder. He is eligible, and you can give him a 20% raise on his current salary for the first year of his new deal, which would be about $12.2 million the following season, instead of risking it in free agency. I think that'd be really nice to have that kind of tradable mid-tier salary that Sixers really lack. And you always see trades happen where guys in that 10 to 15 to $20 million range, they're moved because they're just really easy to fit into those kind of trades. Plus, he still should be a pretty good player that's worth that contract. So obviously, Korkmaz is going to be in the deal. Don't really need to get into that. He has $5 million on his deal, so it's just for matching, and he sucks. Matisse, I can see why some people would be upset about trading Matisse. He's on the last year of his rookie contract. He can theoretically get better. I'm not really one of those people that buy into him getting better, and therefore I don't really buy him being a feasible rotation player next to Joel Embiid or James Harden for the next few years, which is really all that matters. So I don't really have an issue trading him. I do think for Phoenix, he'd have some value. He's obviously very inexpensive for this season, and he's also someone that I think would fit pretty well into what they do defensively. He's kind of like a worse version of Mikal Bridges. I mean, he's way worse on offense, but on defense, he can do some of the similar things that Mikal Bridges does. So when Mikal's out of the game, you kind of still have that really disruptive wing defender with long arms who's kind of blocking shots and defending guys from behind, stuff like that. So I think he could have some value. I also could see George Niang having value for Phoenix as, a third or fourth, preferably fourth rotational wing. He can shoot. He's a good locker room guy. He's fine playing 10 to 15 minutes a game, which Jay Crowder doesn't really seem to be, so it would probably be a better fit for them. Again, they can just move Cam Johnson to the starting lineup. I can also see Shake having some value for them if they decide to move off of campaign. He has 2 more years on his deal, I think around $14 million. Shake's pretty good. Shake's really inexpensive this year still. He is on the last year of his contract, but he's super cheap, and they need some creation outside of Shake and Booker. So I do think all of those guys would have some value. Now, the Sixers would need to cut someone after this trade to get a little bit closer under the apron, and they're going to have to do that anyway if they're making a trade. So, yeah, I still think at the end of the day, I really do think it's worth it for the Sixers to trade any of these guys. They also have some second-round picks to sweeten the deal. Now, trading a first-round pick, again, they only have 1 first-round pick to move. I wouldn't do it. I don't think Jay's that good. At least not with 1 year in his deal. Maybe if he had 2 years on his deal, I'd be more willing to throw a first-round pick, but with 1 year, I just don't really think it's worth it to make that kind of move. So that'll probably be where it's haggled over, and maybe that's where the deal falls apart, not giving up a first. We'll see if another team offers a first. I do think other teams could beat the Sixers package, but they're probably not in as... probably don't need Crowder as much as we do. So it'll be really interesting to see. I really hope they can pull it off. It doesn't seem like he's going to show up to training camp, which starts on Monday or Tuesday, so that'd be pretty interesting. If I were the Suns, I'd keep him, but it doesn't seem like that's likely, especially with this whole ownership thing kind of being up in the air with the salary situation and all that. So, yeah, Daryl, I really hope you can make a move. If you're listening to this, I strongly recommend you go get Jay Crowder. Obviously, you don't have to listen to me, but I would be in great support of it. So let me know what you think. If you think the Sixers should go get Jay. Hopefully this video isn't irrelevant over the next 24 hours if he's traded to another team. Hopefully the Sixers get him. But yeah, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.